Hey guys, welcome to the weekly question video. If you want to leave us a question, details on how to do that is down below, as well as ways to support the channel here on YouTube and over on Patreon if you're interested. This week I had somebody reach out and ask me if I could detail how I journal. More specifically, how I journaled when I was trying to sort through my thoughts on domestic discipline and kind of how I was able to organize the information that I was gathering before I brought it to Coda. So I'll walk through kind of the steps that I did so that you can kind of get a perspective of how journaling helped me and maybe see if you can tweak it to work for you. So when I was gathering information about domestic discipline before I brought it to Coda, I would go and seek out information from sources on the internet. I was reading a lot of different personal accounts, blogs, trying to find just as much information as I could because, quite frankly, a lot of the information out there was not reflective of what I wanted for my own relationship. So I was trying to find at least a few good sources, a few good examples that would be closer to what I was actually wanting to bring to Coda for consideration, that would be reflective of what I wanted our relationship to actually look like. And so once I found those resources, I was able to read through and I was able to kind of reflect on what I was reading. So that would be my first method of journaling to gather information and to organize my thoughts, is I would read an article on a blog, or I would listen to a podcast, or I would do whatever I was doing to gather that information, and I would then just take a moment to jot down my thoughts. What did I take away from this information? What really stuck out to me as something that I enjoyed about it? Like, what about this particular blog post did I find to be valuable? So that was kind of the first method, was to just read and reflect. Now, I did this on a journaling app on my phone because then I could actually link the blog post, show Coda the original source material so that he could get a perspective of what I was talking about in my reflections. So when I gave him that information, he was able to read the original blog post, he was able to read my reflection and my thoughts on it, and then formulate his own thoughts and feelings and reflections. The second thing I did is I really tried to take the information I was reading, take the information I was gathering, take my thoughts, and formulate those into questions to challenge myself to go further into my own kind of thoughts and reflections on what I was wanting. So I would ask myself questions like, what does domestic discipline mean to me? Why do I think domestic discipline would be good for our relationship? What does it mean to be taken in hand in my relationship? What does it mean for my husband to be the head of household? What does it look like for us to live within a domestic discipline structure in our relationship? And so I would ask myself questions like that, and I would write out the question, and then I would really reflect, like, what do I really want out of domestic discipline? And why do I think that it would be good for us? What problems do I see in our relationship that could be easily mitigated with structure and accountability? What kind of punishments am I okay with? What kind of punishments am I not okay with? So any of those questions that you think of that would maybe come up during negotiation, I would just go ahead and try to think of those, journal through them, organize my thoughts around them, so I wasn't having to depend on and rely on being able to process my thoughts and communicate them effectively in the moment. Because that's really a struggle of mine, is being able to think, process, communicate, and advocate for myself in real time. I'm the type of person, I really have to think through things. I really have to organize my thoughts so that I'm not relying on, being able to do all of that on the fly. I'm just not good at that. And so I really wanted to take the time to think through all of those questions. So I kind of have already kind of given you some good questions to ask. So I'm going to recap those. I'm going to try to maybe add some more kind of journal prompts, if you will, to think through if you are wanting to journal through how to think through these things. So, what does domestic discipline mean to you? Why do you think it's a good idea for your relationship? What problems are you having in your relationship, or what issues do you think domestic discipline would solve? What punishments are you okay with? What punishments are you not okay with? What do you want communication to look like in your relationship? How do you view your role as a taken in hand? How do you view your husband's role as a head of household? How do you think that your relationship will look after you implement domestic discipline? What are your goals for your relationship? In an ideal world, what do you want your relationship to look like? I think that it was really helpful for me to be able to give Coda kind of the overall picture of, this is, not only do I want domestic discipline and that's what this looks like, but this is how I want it to affect our relationship. This is what I want our relationship to look like. And I think painting him that picture of what the end goal is, and it has nothing to do with punishments. It has nothing to do with rules or accountability. It has to do with painting this picture of, I want us to live in a relationship that is harmonious, that has good communication, that we enjoy spending time together, that we, have a really strong bond and connection as a couple. And the way we get to that is to have structure and accountability and punishment and all of those things. That's the road to get to the goal. And so I think once I was able to paint him the picture of like, hey, this really, yes, I want the structure. Yes, I want the discipline, but I want that to serve a bigger purpose. This isn't just that I want discipline in our relationship. I want discipline in our relationship to achieve a goal. And I think once he was able to understand that, he was able to understand really what I was asking for, and he was able to get on board with that. And so that's really how I journal, is I find it really helpful to not only read something, listen to something that I can then reflect on and add my own thoughts and add my perspectives and really journal through, what did I take away from this? What did I gain from this? What are my perspectives of this? What did I like? What did I not like? That's one way of journaling. The other way is to create journal prompts through questions and then journal through your answer to that question. So I hope that answered the question of how I journal. If you have any follow-up questions about my process or any tips for others, leave those in the comments below, and I will talk to you guys next week.